Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stu here from Spain Speaks with an update video today in the car again. I've got to go into the center of Madrid to buy a few things and we'll have a bit of a chat about what's going on around the country at the moment. Things are starting to heat up, not only the weather, but also that race, as I mentioned yesterday, to attract foreign tourists. Greece, Portugal, Spain, all in that same race, and Italy as well. Forgot to mention them yesterday. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that on the drive into Madrid today. All right, so back in the car today. Some of you might have picked up on the fact that it's a different car. I'm not in the Subaru as I normally am doing these videos. I'm in a different car today, an automatic, so a lot easier to drive. And I'm just testing this car out today. See what it's like. So if there's a problem with the camera angle, because this is not my usual camera angle, so it might be a bit different today. So if you pick up on that, the reason is that I'm in a new car. So as I said at the opening of the video, things starting to heat up. The weather's getting better. I think the weekend weather around the country was fairly good. Lots of people flocked to the beach in their droves. People escaping from cities like Madrid, people escaping from cities like Barcelona, some of the other interior cities as well, heading to the coast and taking advantage of the freedoms that we now have, that we can move freely around the country. People also going to Andalusia, no doubt, hitting the beaches there, and I imagine that a lot of the beaches were quite crowded at the weekend, which is good from an economy point of view. But there are still some people who are a little bit skeptical as to whether or not the health situation is under control sufficiently to allow people to travel freely around the country again. From what I'm reading in the newspapers, the health situation, the incidence rate hasn't gone up over the last week or so, so that's positive. But of course, it's still early days, and that was the first weekend that people were allowed to travel freely around the country. And we'll see how things go over the next couple of weeks. But definitely a sense of deja vu if we compare last year to this year. Of course, the lockdown finished. Everybody was allowed to... I don't think we were allowed to move freely around the country as soon as that lockdown finished. I think we went into some type of phase situation. But this year, of course, when that state of emergency, state of alarm finished, all of the restrictions went away. When it comes to mobility, there are still restrictions in place when it comes to curfews and things like that. So if you did go to the Valencian community over the weekend from Madrid, you would have had to adhere to the curfew rules. I think 12 midnight down there, but in Madrid there's no curfew time. So some of the differences around the country at the moment. And as I said, things are also heating up from a tourism point of view. Greece announcing that it was opening up, wanting to attract foreign tourists this year, get an advantage over other countries. Portugal as well. I read in some of the British newspapers this morning that Portugal, people hopping on flights heading to Portugal for a week's holidays, 2 weeks holiday. Portuguese people returning home, and people eager to get down to the countries in the south of Europe where the weather is a little bit better than the north, let's be honest. Haven't heard too much about Italy, not really sure what's going on there. I've only read about Greece, I've only read about Portugal, and of course, as we know, Spain. As of the 20th, I think, people from the UK are going to be allowed to travel to Spain, even though it's on the amber list. Portugal's green, Spain and Greece amber, as we know. Now, I'm not heading into central Madrid today, I'm going into one of the neighbourhoods on the outskirts. It's actually the neighbourhood where my girlfriend's parents live. There's a wine shop there, and I'm going to buy a couple of bottles of wine because it's my son's birthday soon, and we've got a small celebration, just a few people coming over to celebrate his birthday, so I've got to prepare for that. And I don't really want to buy supermarket wine. I prefer to go to a specialist shop and see if I can get a decent drop or two of wine. Now I've got a toll here coming up because I'm going to take a toll road to get in to the particular neighbourhood where I'm going. It's not an expensive toll, I think it's only around 50 cents. It's one of these old toll roads that were set up after the housing boom here. They decided to build these toll roads. So I'll just put the money in here.
Gracias por utilizar nuestros servicios.
50 cents. And I don't have to pay, of course. I could have taken a free road to my destination, but it's a little bit quicker to cut through here and to avoid some of the heavier traffic as you get closer to Madrid, which, as we know, can be a bit of a nightmare. So, people escaping to the beach, people escaping to their pueblos. Somebody asked the question in the comment section, why do so many people flee cities like Madrid at the weekend to go to the beach? Well, the answer is that a lot of people don't want to be cooped up in a flat, which is how the majority of people in this city live, especially when the weather starts to get good. And a lot of people have second homes in places like Valencia, in places like Andalusia, and they take advantage of the weekends to head down there. The 3 p.m. exodus, as they call it, from Madrid, and other cities as well, but Madrid is the main one because of the heavy population density in this part of the world, something like 6 or 7 million people living in the Madrid community, and it is one of the main suppliers of people to other parts of the country. Barcelona as well, but of course Barcelona has a coast, so they don't have to head as far away as people from this city do to Valencia, which is about 300 and something kilometers. I'm not sure of the exact distance, but 360 maybe. Takes about 3.5 hours, 400 to Alicante, I think. So people jump in the car, people jump on the train and hit the coast whenever they can. And it sure beats hanging around in Madrid when it starts to get hot, I'll tell you. And while we're on the topic of beaches, there was a few comments about some of the better beaches around the country. Somebody asked the question, what does a blue flag mean? I'll just explain it quickly for people that maybe aren't aware of the blue flag system. What it is an international award system, I think, for good quality beaches where the water quality is high, where the sand quality is high, where they have facilities on the beach like showers and good access ramps and things like that. And according to those characteristics, they get awarded a blue flag. And I think yesterday we mentioned that Spain is the country in the world with the most blue flags. Portugal has them as well. Greece would have them. I think it's an international thing. I don't think it's only a European thing. And it's not only coastal beaches. There's a place in Madrid, I think there's some type of dam or lake that also has a blue flag because it is a place where people go for a swim at the weekends to escape the heat. So not only beaches. So I'm just going to try and find a place to park. I'll just go into this descampado, as they call them here. So I'm at the wine shop now. I'm just going to go in and buy a few bottles and I'll pick up the vlog again when I finish. So see you then. Okay, back in the car, time to head home. Have got the wine. I got a nice Rioja, got a nice Rosé as well. And I also got one from an area called the Bierzo, and it's a Mencía type wine, which is very tasty. And I think it will go down a treat at the weekend. So let's get out of this parking area here. And it does look a little bit dodgy. So I'll try to avoid some of the holes and head home through this neighborhood. Now, one of the other characteristics at the weekend, apart from people heading to the coast and heading to their towns, was the botellón phenomenon, or the street drinking phenomenon that we have here in Spain. I think something like 7,000 people were moved on from botellones in Barcelona, and there were different places all over mainland Spain, and I think even the Canary Islands had a bit of a botellón problem at the weekend. And there was an article in one of the online newspapers today asking the question whether or not Spain has a drinking problem, especially youth. Now, I got accused of being an old man yesterday, saying that I should allow people to party if they want to. You're only young once. Go for it. Party as hard as you can when you've got the opportunity to do so. And my problem is not with partying per se. My problem is with these botellones and the rubbish that they create, and just the general lack of civic behavior that these botellones normally cause. And if you've ever seen one of these botellones, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Where I live, the problem's not too bad, but there are some neighborhoods in Madrid where the situation can get very, very bad at the weekends. Now, we've got the Wanda Metropolitano Stadium there. That's the home ground of Atlético de Madrid. You probably saw that there. Fairly new stadium. It's only been there for a couple of years, I think. And that is where Atlético de Madrid plays all of their home games. And at the moment, they're on top of the ladder here in Spain. One game to go. And I think they're confident that they can win. But as I said, one game to go and Real Madrid is pushing. So we'll see how that ends up. But there's going to be a huge party here next weekend if Atletico do win the tournament. And also in the centre of Madrid where they go to celebrate at a place called Neptuno. So we'll wait and see. So back on the topic of the botellón. Yeah, it is a real problem. And as I said, asking the question, is there a drinking problem here in Spain? People are definitely drinking more and they're starting younger. Spain is a country, as we know, where alcohol is a fairly ingrained part of society. You can drink 24 hours a day if you want. You can always find a place open that will serve you a beer or a wine or a whiskey at any time of the day. So in that sense, alcohol rules are very relaxed in this country, at least if you compare them to a country like Australia, where alcohol drinking is common. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people drink alcohol frequently in Australia, but the rules and regulations when it comes to drinking alcohol are a lot stricter there than here, and a lot stricter when it comes to street drinking as well. Not to mention opening times of bars and restaurants, and also the amount of alcohol you get when you order it at a bar. So if you order a whiskey and coke or a rum and coke, you get your little shot. But here, the free pouring system, and of course, if you buy alcohol at a supermarket here, it's very, very cheap. You can pick up a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of rum, a bottle of vodka, a bottle of gin from anywhere between 7 and 10 euros for the cheaper ones. Obviously, if you want to go top shelf, you're going to pay more than that. But those are the prices that you can pick up a bottle of alcohol for. And for a kid, teenager, 16, 17 years of age, split it 4 or 5 ways with your mates. You've got a good night out and a fairly easy way to get drunk. And that's what kids are doing nowadays. They are binge drinking. And the funny thing about this is that botellones, or street drinking parties, are illegal. They've been illegal since 2004. I think the Aznar government back then banned street drinking parties, but they just won't go away, and every year they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And since the pandemic, of course, they have got a little bit out of control. Now, just got to get onto the motorway here again. Things can get a little bit busy trying to get onto this road here, so I'll just try and cut across if I can, get into one of the middle lanes, because a lot of people are going to be going to shopping centres or trying to get off here at this town. So we'll just get here in the middle and sit and talk about the final topic of the day, which was the Spain-Portugal debate. I read out a comment yesterday from somebody that said, I live in Spain, but I like Portugal too. And I also said that I live in Spain and I also like Portugal. So we have that in common. And I mentioned the fact that I tried to get to Portugal as often as I can. It's where I've been holidaying, spending a lot of my time over the last 12 years or so, because it's a country where I can relax, get away from Spain. Sometimes Spain gets a little bit too heavy for me, let's say, and I like to get away, go somewhere where I don't fully understand the language, and you can sort of disconnect, if that makes sense. And for me, the Portuguese coast, especially the central part of the country, is a place that I love because it's that open coastline. You can go surfing. They've got beaches with sand dunes that you have to walk through to get to the beach. It reminds me of home, and the food in that part of the world for me is absolutely fantastic as well. Lots of fresh fish that they sort of grill up in front of you there, and absolutely brilliant. You can find that in Spain as well, but I find it in Portugal, and it's a little bit cheaper in Portugal as well than this part of Spain. Madrid's quite expensive, as we know. So Portugal for me is a little bit cheaper, although it is getting more and more expensive. The more tourists that visit the country, the more expensive the country becomes, it seems. I'm not talking about Lisbon, I'm not talking about Porto, I'm talking about a place that's around an hour north of Lisbon. If anybody knows the area, that's the place that I like to go to. Lots of other people like to go to places like the Algarve as well. But the weather down in the Algarve is similar, I imagine, to the Mediterranean coast in Spain, or at least I don't think it would be that much different. If you are choosing between either Spain or Portugal as a place to possibly retire, you definitely have to check out both countries and come to your own conclusion. I like both. I mean, there are places here that I love. I love being able to travel around Spain. It's a very diverse country, different places that you can visit very easily, especially here from Madrid, as I have mentioned on various occasions. Portugal as well, but it doesn't seem to have the same diversity as Spain. That's obviously because it is a small country Compared to Spain, what, 11 million people, and also geographically also smaller. But Spain is a fantastic country, don't get me wrong. It's got its cons, every country does, but the pros in my opinion outweigh the cons, and that's the same for Portugal as well. So if you are planning to come to either Spain or Portugal and you haven't really decided yet which one you want to go to, my advice would be to check out both places, see which one you feel most comfortable in, whether it's the Mediterranean style living or whether it's that more Atlantic style living if you're choosing between a coastal area, and that would be my recommendation. Now I'm arriving at my destination here, just have to get through this section of the motorway, so I'll wrap the video up now. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. If you're planning a holiday to the continent this year, if you're in the UK or Ireland, let us know where you're planning on going, whether it's Spain, Portugal, Greece, Italy, or maybe Croatia. That could also be another destination that we haven't mentioned either. Not sure what list they are on, whether it's the green, the amber, the red, who knows where Croatia is at the moment. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.